let's have a very fantastic show. Now we'll start with the story where President Bola Tinubu has ordered full investigation into the fire outbreak that destroyed more than 1,000 shops and goods at Singa markets. The special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Ononuga, in a statement, confirmed that President Tinubu had earlier reached out to Governor Abba Yusuf to obtain a situation report on the fire. According to the statement, President Tinubu had asked Vice President Kassim Shettima to lead a high-powered federal government delegation to Kano State to express sympathy and support for victims of the Singa market fire disaster. Now, the delegation scheduled to depart Abuja today will convey President Tinubu's condolences to the traders who lost billions of naira in the weekend fire that engulfed the market, making it the second incident in just 2 weeks. The delegation will also pledge on behalf of the government's financial assistance to aid the victims and support Kano State in facilitating the quick reopening of the market. So this is the conversation we're going to be having this morning, ladies and gentlemen. We all saw what happened, in Kano. We know what the Singa market is, a very, very big market. But this is a market that this has happened before. So if you ask people, they'll say, didn't we take cue from what happened before? How are we seeing it happen again? And, a lot of trade happens in this market. Everybody is trading in this market. One thing people have spoken about this market is a lot of electrical materials are used there. A lot of heavy electrical materials are being used there. Although we do not know what really caused the fire, but that's why the president has said they need to look into the situation. We do not want a third one to happen. Absolutely.
This is not the first time it has happened. And it's a major market. The Singa market is a major market in Kano. Now, there are a lot of electrical equipment not only being sold, but actually being used, particularly generators and all that to generate electricity. We don't know what actually led to this situation until when it's fully investigated. But I think there's a need for a review of the fire safety procedure, if there's any in that market, because you can't keep having the same thing happening, all the time without somebody reviewing the systems in that market. And look, projected losses, was said to be around 5 billion naira. That was a huge amount of money. Many people will be devastated by it. So there's a need to urgently, look into what is going on and how to ensure that traders can trade safely and the market is safer. So I think the president is acting in the right direction. Yeah, exactly. Olamide, we hear that 1,000 shops have been destroyed. And when the shops are destroyed, it's not like they were empty. There were goods in the shop. People have lost their livelihood. And, it's quite a sad one. In 2 weeks, this is the second one in 2 weeks, and we're beginning to worry what is happening. This is the Singa market, as we can see on the screens, a very, very popular market in Kano State. I worry for the people that have lost their, properties in the shops that were destroyed. What are we doing with our fire agencies when things like this happen? How fast, how swift were they able to get there just to make sure, that the fire goes down? It's quite a painful one, but we stand with the president here. He's made a bold step very fast. This was very swift where he spoke to, Abba Yusuf, that they need to find out exactly what had happened.
Indeed, the president is definitely signaling that this is not just a local or a regional concern. It's a national concern for him. The vice president has been there as a delegate. It's very good to see that this is being treated as a national concern. But what is even more worrying is the frequency, like you said, the second fire in 2 weeks, is the frequency of this. What is going on in our markets? We're seeing this across regions, in the north, in the south. What is going on in our markets that is making these fires so frequent? There's like you said, Mr. Shomi, our electrical systems, they're overwired, there's poor oversight, they're not being monitored. That is what the issue lies in. When you think about fires like this, they disrupt entire supply chains. Because Nigerians, we live in unfortunately, such a volatile economic climate right now. One day in the lives of these traders could be the difference between feeding their family and not feeding their family. It's a very hard time for them, but like I said, the president is treating this as a national concern. What we want to see right now is proper fire prevention measures put in place in that market, as well as compensation for everything that these traders have lost.
I agree with you, Olamide. I remember when I went to the Balogun, when there was a fire in Balogun, when I went there, just hearing how the traders were crying. So I can understand the pain that these people will feel. But Ibrahim, what are the measures we need to put in place to make sure that we do not keep seeing this happen? Because it cut across. It's not just in Kano. Oftentimes we hear, oh, this market has, a fire has got this market, and some people even lose their lives, some people lose properties.
Yeah, so, beyond just markets burning, catching fire, people's lives, is also at stake. Yeah. But one thing is, most of the fire incidents are actually due to people's acts, just to put it that way. Because sometimes you see cobwebs talking about, the electric cables suspended somehow. Some of them are even touching, the walls of the building. And sometimes when you tell people you need to turn off your generator before you pour the fuel, they will just look at you like, that's the normal thing we do. Or some kind of activities that lead to fire, burning a fire, and people try to advise them. You see them just saying, this is how we do it the normal way. So one thing is, what kind of checks do we put in place? How often does the fire service or the government generally, the government agency, goes to those markets, all the markets across the nation, to check for, eventually to check for things that could lead to, fire outbreaks and all of that? How often do we do that? So that's to say that the authority is actually sleeping on duty, which is not supposed to be. So we as people, we should also be mindful. Anytime we see something, we should call the attention, and when alarm is being raised, we should also act very swiftly. What about the leadership of all the markets across? Because it's a lesson for all the markets across the nation. Because this is $billion, investment lost, in this market, and that is also going to affect government's revenue. So if it happens to one, it happens to two, then it happens to everybody. Everyone definitely is going to feel it. So whatever revenue that is being generated from there has been suspended, for the time being. So whatever it is that we need to do to guard against fire, to guard against disaster, collapsed building and all of that, we should ensure that we do it
and we do
as soon
it
as
fast.
possible.
We should do it very fast. I Googled the market because I wanted to understand how the market is. And if there's something I must say this morning is that the market is highly populated with very tiny walkways. The walkways are really tiny. So I think that market, we need to even look into that market to restructure it to make it better, because this market has been
ventilation.
This market has been there since a decade. And a lot of people now have shops. It's tight. How do people breathe? If there are different generators, how would the generators operate? So I even feel like our markets, there are some times that we need to look into these markets and probably rebuild them or create more space.
I think it's the point Ibrahim is trying to make about, fire safety officers actually going to visit major markets, to look at the situation, advise people. You don't need to keep adding more stores when they will create problems, just simply because we need to make money. Whether it's owned by local government or state does not matter. The issue is there's a need, for fire safety officers rather than fire officers staying at their station. It's better to prevent it. And I think it's something
All right, we'll leave the conversation there, but we'll definitely follow the story and give you updates how it goes.